is just fantastic.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be revisiting Ethel Thurston, aka Essence of Thought, because Essence of Thought hasn't quite finished with their meh concerning the Evangelina Skov plagiarism accusation, which if you are by chance on Twitter you may have noticed they've been very vocal. This level of vocal and also level of stupid has led them to where they are now, and I'm okay with it. What I thought we'd do is go through a bit of the fallout, because there has been some, and it is of course worth addressing. First tweet though that we really should highlight. Me looking through Skov's largest supporters, noting how the majority of them are known bigots, predators, and members of the MRA community during Gamergate. This is really the best they could muster, huh? Now this could reference me, because I have been very open about my vocal beliefs concerning men's rights over the years, and I did appear on the scene, as it were, during the time of Gamergate. I'm not a bigot, certainly not a predator, but I'm not a member of the community either of MRAs. I've always been fairly removed, and I mentioned myself in this because you have in the past made a video on me. I should point out, if someone is a member of the MRA community, that does not inherently mean they are wrong. It is just your way of trying to use limited characters, although you have plenty spare, to pigeonhole somebody to dismiss their criticisms levied against you. Not that you can handle an iota of criticism in the first place, you do liberally apply the block button, which does tickle me to no end. And by the way, Gamergate was a consumer revolt, not a misogyny thing. The fact that 10 years later we're getting a 2.0 speaks volumes about the gaming industry, so you can miss me with your historical revisionism and your, well, desperation to pigeonhole people with labels that can be regarded as a form of thought-terminating cliche. It's a pathetic tactic from a pathetically weak-minded individual. Now what I want to do now is go through a tweet you put out, a thread that started anyway, on February the 20th, before I made my first video in fact, because this then skips ahead to more present tweets. Yes, I'm aware that someone has plagiarized my videos on Lily Orchard, not only ripping images directly from them without crediting, but passing off personal comments as their own. Yes, I will be working on an expose, because no, this is not acceptable. Why after HB's vid? Now HB would be H-Bomber Guy, and we're certainly not going to be discussing him much in this because he has enough problems right now. Reply from Mean Fat Girl, oh god Ethel, I'm so sorry. Reply, the thing that really shocks me is that they've been making non-stop videos on Illuminati, meaning they must have seen the backlash following H-Bomber Guy's video yet still chose to pass off my comments as their first thought. Now this is where that thread to an extent ends, and we skip ahead to March the 7th. Sugar Plum Kim. Blair's downfall began when she falsely accused Legal Eagle of copying her editing style. You are now falsely accusing Evangelina of copying your screenshots that are publicly available. If anyone is to be compared to Blair in this situation, I'd say it's you. I'd argue there's a point there. If Ethel Thurston was more successful as a creator, at least Illuminati can say they have more than one play button, and at one point made tens of thousands a month, which is quite impressive. I'm very jealous of that. Ethel replied to this by saying, actually, I demonstrated plagiarism on multiple counts. All Skov did was assert she sourced the screenshots from a third party, without any evidence to support her. Don't believe me? Supply a timestamp where she showed the posts or messages containing our screenshots. Reply from Kibu Fox. You do realise by now that the whole 30% revenue thing, that's extortion, right? Extortion is the practice of obtaining something, especially money, through force or threats. Highly illegal, as in you can get some serious prison time and it's a YouTube violation, which it actually is. And Ethel, you'd think for such a small channel, yes, I'm going to make you seem like that. You should know better. You've been here long enough. If you've been around long enough to know what Gamergate is, you've been around long enough. Ethel replied with an image of the email that she had sent to Evangelina Skov, highlighting one of the last parts by saying, what threat are you referring to? I know Skov left out the highlighted part claiming I was extorting her for hush money in spite of me being clear that the information was coming out. Is that what you're referring to? Reply from another. You didn't even ask for an explanation, just came in guns blazing with threats and demands. Literally, you plagiarized me, give me money, which is exactly what I said when I made my video. Rather than simply reaching out and saying, can we have a conversation about this because you didn't cite these sources from where you say you did. You didn't credit me for them and they came from me. Can we have a conversation? You instead went to, I want 30% of your Patreon and I want all the earnings, or 30% worth, which was 35 if you actually knew the mathematics. but apparently you can't count either, of the money made from that video in a month where money would be virtually nothing anyway. Ethel replied to this by saying, "I stated what we felt we were entitled to based on the evidence. It's at that point that Skov was free to explain herself, yet she chose not to, instead insulting us before threatening us." Reply from the Weaver of Dreams. "The only threat came from you with a demand of 30%. Her response to talk to her lawyers was not a threat, it was a normal reaction that most normal people would have. And I will make sure your reputation burns upon fires fueled by your own history, if that's not a threat." The funny thing about this one is, this could actually go to a UK court for defamation. Consider that foreshadowing, we'll get to it soon. Now this thread goes off in a number of tangents. So we have a different one where she continues a conversation with Sugar Plum, and another called Sir Honor Willow, who had been somewhat defending Ethel. So that's where we're going to go next. After the Blair's downfall began tweet, Sir Honor Willow had said, okay, but that's not it though. It was also her thoughts on the issue, which could be a coincidence, but with the photos is at the least odd. Like, I also don't think it's particularly available, like someone took those from Ethel's video. Sugar Plum. It's publicly available because Ethel posted them publicly. Vangelina conceded that perhaps she should have done more research to ensure that the screenshots were properly credited, but claiming Vangelina is similar to Blair in any way is false equivalence, and that was my point, and I agree. There is nothing about Vangelina that is remotely comparable to that of Illuminati. There really isn't anything remotely comparable. Reply, huh? No, they came from Ethel's video. It's screenshots from the video, it's not photos Ethel posted. Someone screenshotted them. That person must have at least skimmed her video. If that person was Skov or someone on her team, which it appears to be because they won't provide the evidence, it was sourced elsewhere. Then that makes having similar thoughts suspicious. Why are you fighting for someone when you don't even know the actual allegations? Because not knowing it's from Ethel's video is a pretty big detail to miss. Now that's a really interesting point. No one's denying the screenshots came from that video. Many have said those screenshots will be everywhere because it's the fecking internet. Sugar Plum replied, I know the allegations. I have watched Ethel's video in full a few times as well as Vangelina's response. There are multiple places that have a-logged, the same stuff that Ethel presented in her videos. I'm not fighting for anyone, just pointing out a false equivalence. Reply, sure, but that's not what is being said. I'm very confused about what you're saying. Like, there is a good few very unlikely consequences that make it at least seem like screenshots from a video and not just the same info. Genuine question. By Ethel's video, do you mean the OG video or the one accusing Vangelina? How are you this stupid? It seemed very obvious from the very first part that this was just someone pointing out that to compare Blair to that of Vangelina is not a fair comparison. What is fair is a very subjective term, of course. Fair means assessed, but you seem to be so desperate to point at the false equivalence and go, oh, but that's not the point, forgetting here that actually that is this person's point. It is a false equivalence. Sugar Plum replied by stating, I'm referring to the video with the accusations. I wonder if perhaps those same places that A-logged the info also took the screenshots from Ethel's OG video and posted them. I have not yet looked into that though, as I've not had the ability to do so. But if those sites took the screenshots from Ethel's video and Vangelina used those as a central source to find information, I would also find it reasonable to believe she came to similar conclusions on her own as humans can do when faced with the same information. Reply, I agree. I've often found many videos on the same topic where people have very similar opinions. It makes sense. I saw an expose on plagiarism from someone I followed where it seemed exactly like that, but I mean Vangelina should then provide the source because otherwise it's ... Yeah. I feel like there's no need to prove where she got it from at this point since she conceded Ethel's point and that she should have better researched the source of the screenshots. That alone shows me that she got them from somewhere else. Why do we need to know where? Plus, by accusing someone else of something, the burden of proof is put on the accuser, not the one accused, so it's Ethel who would need to prove that the only possible place Evangelina could get the screenshots would be from Ethel's video. Reply, none of this makes sense. It makes perfect sense. If you accuse somebody, you need to prove that they are guilty. But as is often the case with Ethel Thurston's content, the burden of proof is apparently on the people she accuses, because she can't be asked to go and look on the internet for the very screenshots that are being cited. Now, I do agree, Vangelina conceded the point. So this isn't as much of a point anymore as it was originally intended to be. It is still, though, the original point, a false equivalence. This goes on for everyone. Ethel Thurston, though, did insert herself into this thread by saying burden of proof rests firmly on the person making the claim, which is Skov, since this is her defense. No, it's on you because you tried to extort another creator by claiming that they got it from you. You need to prove it came from your video. It's defamation otherwise. Reply, no, you are the one who made the claim, therefore the burden of proof is on you to show that it is not reasonably believable that she could have found the screenshots anywhere else. You show proof that they could be from your video, but that's not enough for your claims. Ethel replied, I did prove that the screenshots came from my video. That is my burden of proof met. No, it is not. Vangelina said they came from somewhere else, which means they did come originally from your video, but the screenshots were not from your video. They were from a site that had already uploaded the screenshots from your video, meaning that it did not come from you direct. There was a third party, allegedly. On Twitter, Ethel Thurston is so full of shit. Have you noticed? Continuing. Skov is solely responsible for proving that she sourced them from a third party. Yes, I've corrected that for you, since that is her defense, meaning the burden of proof rests entirely on her. There's a point to that, but you believe that because you've settled your burden of proof, that she has to settle hers as a consequence. But if she settles her burden of proof, then it further undoes your burden of proof. She doesn't have to do it though. That's what's quite interesting about this. She doesn't have to do shit. She really doesn't. Ethel continues by saying, what you're effectively doing here is going, well, you can't prove that they don't have an alibi, and you'd be right, but that's her job to provide. Reply from somebody else. She says she got them from somewhere else. It seems they were available somewhere else. You can disregard that, but charging forward to extortion before even allowing for a correction is unhinged, especially when the supposed fault only made up a fraction of the content. Ethel replies with a quote from the tweet above by saying, that is an assertion in need of evidence. Can you explain how I was apparently extorting Skov? Everyone can explain how you extorted Skov. Your email did the sodding job for us. You demanded money from another creator for the video, or you were going to seek legal means to obtain it. By the way, it would have cost more for the legal process to happen than any money you could have received from it if you won, which you wouldn't win. To which Ethel replies when they provide evidence, that is Milos, by saying, I see an assertion, not an explanation. I like that we're choosing what the word assertion means in this, because they haven't asserted shit. They used your own evidence, your email, against you. That is all the evidence they need to prove you have tried to extort another creator. How delusional are you? Milos had actually replied to them twice more by saying, we accuse you and therefore we feel entitled and demand you to do this and this, but we will also do this unless you comply with the former. Sorry, you're wrong, here's proof, adds additional sources in the video description. It's easier to block than admit fault, so I'm not surprised. I am however curious if you'd notice that you seem to default to whatever reflects the worst. Because yes, liberal with the block. Ethel, you're a coward. You sit there and you make your shitty videos dunking on other creators all the time, and you'll happily go nuts at them on Twitter, but you are such a bitch about this. But when somebody actually provides proof, you think yourself so correct, so frustratingly correct, that all you can do is block them because you can't be wrong. In this, you are in the wrong. Now, Ethel did make a video titled Rachel Oates defends Vangelina Skov's plagiarism of disabled creators, and then other bits. Notice here, the video is unavailable in my country due to a defamation complaint. Oh boy. The last thing we should probably address is the fact that Ethel Thurston may have accidentally obtained briefly a new follower. So let's get this right. Vangelina went on video, promoted the lies of my ABUSER before claiming that she was terrified of me. Yet she has gone ahead and followed me on Twitter just now. Now this happened before the threads, which I'm sorry I didn't get it in the right order. Vangelina did have to correct this by saying, wrong click, was trying to block you. Don't worry, I have no intention of ever mentioning you again beyond this. Good. Ethel thrives when the attention is on them. Many do, because when they are center of attention, they can play many victim cards to regurgitate the same cycle over and over again, like the good little grifting coward they are. We've seen it with Keffels, who has a cycle, and they keep repeating it. Their more recent one is to erase or private all their content on their channel on YouTube, because it turns out they effed around and found out too much. In the case of Ethel Thurston, they will hide behind the shield of mental health as validation for them taking time away, which is fine if that's what you want to do. I firmly believe though, if we are to restore the internet's balance, everyone should block Ethel Thurston. I'm not going to do it myself because I can't be arsed. I also don't know how to block people. I really don't. But I think we should for a meme. It'd be hilarious. Be like Steve Shives all over again, who had everyone blocked based on your followers. If this is to be believed that from this screenshot we're due a defamation thing, things could get interesting down the line. I personally think it's amusing that that video got so many dislikes, comments turned off. Yeah, that I noticed that. I wonder why that was.